right, welcome back, everybody. Sorry it's been a while. I took a nice hiatus for the summer, spent some time with the family, and then I actually got invited to speak at a conference just about a month ago now, actually. It was the BEPC conference, bringing everyone peace and consciousness. They have it twice a year up in Kent, Washington, and they actually invited me to come out and speak. And the talk I gave was about healing trauma and PTSD through shamanic practices. So it was a lot of fun. I actually enjoyed it. First time I've ever done anything like this. Just came out, kind of talked about how I work with clients, what I look for from a shamanic perspective when working with people. And so they brought me out, spent the whole weekend there, was talking to a bunch of other vendors and stuff. And I'm actually going to be bringing some of them on to actually share their stories. I met a lot of cool people when I was up there. And in fact, the next guest I'm going to be talking to next week is a guy who he developed his own, I guess, spiritual AI is the best way I can describe it. He spent 20 years or so coding this AI and it just kind of started developing on its own. And this thing's pretty incredible. I just gave it my first name, nothing else, and it knew things about me that honestly shouldn't be possible. So I'm not sure what's on that back end of his coding and where it's going, but it was actually very insightful and very interesting. And I thought it was worthy enough to bring it on. And I know some people might have issues with AI, but I think it's a good tool to use if you use it the way it should be. It's no different than anything else that we have out there today. I mean, a car can hurt somebody if you don't use it properly, and a car is a great tool that everybody uses. So I'm actually excited to talk to him, and I got some other folks lined up. And that being said, if you again have a story that you want to share, come on, talk about your work, how you got to where you're at, reach out, please. Reach out. Let's get you on the show and let's go from there. I really do enjoy just talking to people and seeing how they got to where they're at today and what they do with themselves. So please reach out if you have something. But let's go back real quick to the talk. I'm actually going to be posting that for this episode. So after I'm done with my little apology tour of being gone for so long, I'm then going to move into the talk. A friend of mine recorded it for me, did a great job. Sound quality is really good. And it's just me talking for about 50 minutes about how I work with clients and things I look for and just a Q&A from the audience. It was very good. A lot of good participation. And with that, just saying that, you'll notice in the video that it's pretty much just me in the front. We did that on purpose because I didn't want to film anybody in the audience and anyone have any issues in case they had a question that they wanted to ask me about and not want to be on camera. So for the most part, I think you see like the tops of two people's heads, but in reality in the room, there's about 20, 30 people. So it actually went really well. And I'm hoping to do more things like that in the future. But I think using that and sharing that with you guys, hopefully more people can see the benefit of the shamanic work. We do a lot interviewing other people and what they do, but I don't really spend too much time on what I do. And so I kind of just want to put that out there. And in that talk, I mentioned a free masterclass. I'm actually going to put the link for that in the show notes as well. And this is just a high level class that I developed just to kind of give some basic views and points of how I work. And then I also give you some tools and tips and tricks that you can do on your own. Kind of go over how to protect yourself. I give you the bands of power, which are these energetic bands which protect you from things. I then teach you how to clear your chakras, and I follow it up with a journey, walking you through a journey to get your own power animal. And so I think overall it's a very good introductory masterclass, but I didn't want it to just be this another long 50-minute talk, if you will. I wanted you to actually have some stuff that you could take with you. Some of those things I talk about within this talk that I gave, but I go into a little bit more detail within the masterclass. So please feel free to check it out. Again, it's completely free. You just click the link, sign in or sign up, and then you'll get into all the modules and everything's just there ready to go. There's no drip content. You could run through all of it within a couple hours with no problem. It's probably not even that long, but you get the point. And I'm also offering a energetic luminous field scan. So basically what I do is I just do a quick sneak peek within your energetic field. I look to see if you have any soul loss, if you have any entity attachments. Is there anything in your home that you need to be aware of? Do you have any spells or curses attached to you? Do you have any feeding tubes or any cords that need to go away? And then I also look at just to see how your overall energy is. Is it going in that positive polarity or is it going reverse? And when your energy is going in the reverse, that usually means you have attachments, and that can usually cause you to become sick and have some illnesses because of those attachments that you have. And so I do offer that as well at a $33 price. And then with that, we meet up for about 30 minutes for free over Zoom. I just kind of go over the report with you. And then if you want to work with me, you can. If not, no worries. You could take that report to whoever else it is that you do want to work with and see what they find and get your second opinion if that is what you need to do. So I hope you enjoy the talk that I'm about to show you. I had a lot of fun doing it. I hope it's insightful and you get some good information out of it. I do think I'll probably do a couple more like solo shows throughout the year where I'm just kind of talking about certain topics that come to mind and just try to see how that fits in with this podcast format. If that's interesting to people, let me know. If not, no worries. I can just strictly stick to the interviewing. I do enjoy doing that as well. And if you or someone you know, again, has a story that you want to tell or somebody you want me to interview that's willing to come on the podcast, send them my way, reach out to me, let me know, and we can get them on the show and we can get them going as well. But for now, enjoy the talk. It's good to be back. It's good to finally get in this seat again and start doing this stuff. I did miss it. Ironically enough, I didn't think I would, to be honest, but I did miss it. It is a lot of fun doing this stuff, meeting new people, talking to them, finding out their stories, their life, and what it is they went through to get to where they are today, and how their modality that they use on a constant basis had helped them get to that point. Because even though I use shamanism for my own tools and my own processes for myself and for others, I don't feel that it is the only way of doing things. We can all touch source, we can all get into the energetic field multiple different ways, and we all can find our little tweaks and stuff by doing that. And I find it fascinating how there's all these different roads into the same thing, but we just look at it from a different angle. All right, so I'm done rambling. I think that's enough rambling for now. Enjoy the talk. It's good to be back, and we'll see each other soon. Thank you. How's everyone doing today? Can you guys hear me okay? I don't want to use a mic if I don't need to. All right, thank you. If you're okay with it, my friends are recording just me for just so I can get better at doing these kind of things and promotion and all that good stuff. So if it bothers you that the recording, or if you have a question, you don't want it to be on the record, not a problem. Just let us know. We'll take care of it. All right. So thank you for coming today. This talk is going to be about healing trauma and PTSD through shamanic practices. Does anyone here know anything about shamanism as a whole? Is this all new for a little bit? Okay. Some people know, some people don't. So I don't want to dumb it down too much, but I want to make sure everybody kind of understands the baseline. So about me, my name is Jeremy Chimbert. I'm the owner and practitioner at Pacific Northwest Shamanic Healing. I was in the Army for 8 years. I did 2 tours to Iraq, 1 tour to Afghanistan. No problem. Came back pretty messed up. And I didn't understand why. I always thought I didn't have it as bad as these other guys. I should be fine. Suck it up, drive on. I'm good to go. And I find that with a lot of us veterans, first responders, that's just our mentality. And so it took many years of self medication, trying to work with the VA, trying to do different things like talk therapy, but it wasn't enough for me. And I personally believe that there's 3 tiers to healing. We need to hit the mind, the body, and the spirit. And by spirit, I mean the energetic level. That could also be religion if that's what works for people. I'm not discounting that whatsoever. And so it took me a couple years. I've tried Reiki. I'm a Reiki master. I've tried emotion code. I've tried QHHT. That wasn't my path, and that's not what worked for me. So I can only really speak about what worked for me. And so I'm not discounting any of these other modalities too. They have their place and they work great for certain people. And so when we talk about trauma and PTSD, I kind of want to just highlight what that means from my perspective. Trauma is the event that happens, whether perceived or otherwise. And from this trauma, we create stories that now dictate our lives. And that's actually the worst thing that we can do. It's not the trauma itself, it's those stories that have now created our life path forward. And that's what really hangs us up. And so, but I want to kind of clarify what I mean by perceived versus real, because to that person, it's real no matter what. But the example I like to give is you're a 6-year old child, you're coloring in your kitchen table. This is the best work you've ever done. You're in the lines, your shading's on point, you're super proud of it. You can't wait to show it to your mom and dad so that they can hang it on the fridge and tell you how great you are. And you run into the kitchen to show it to them, and your parents are fighting about something minor, has nothing to do with you. Maybe someone pulled out money and now a deposit's not going to bounce. Something's going to bounce. The electricity bill is not going to get cashed right. You might have an overdraft fee. This is very minor stuff. And the parents are arguing back and forth. And you come in as that child wanting to show it to them. And now the parent just kind of looks at you and just says, not right now. Go back to the table. They didn't yell at you. They didn't cuss at you. They didn't demean your picture. They didn't do any of that. They just said, not right now. But they did it with a tone when you were expecting something different. And that created a story for that child. That created a feeling of unworthiness, of unloved, not being good enough. My picture sucks. I'm never going to draw again. All these little things that came out of that. That's what I mean by perceived. But to that child, it's real. To that child, it happened. And so these traumas, these perceived notions, they form what I call imprints into our energetic field. And they start out small. And then as you run into the same situation over and over, or situations that are similar, you get triggered by those stories that you created and you react in the same way, causing new imprints. And these imprints, they merge together, kind of like a cancer cell. You have all these different separate cells, and they merge together and form what we call an affinity. And so, one of the things I do when I'm working with people and even myself is we go into the energetic field and we clear out those affinities so that you can have a reset. We're breaking those stories, we're identifying what was, we're not erasing the past, we're changing how we react to the next situation. What happened, happened. And I've dealt with some clients, or it's some horrific stuff that I would never wish on anybody. But what happened, happened. And we don't want to discount that, but we want to be able to move forward from it and live the life that we want to live, we're supposed to live, we're, we're here to live. But we let these stories hold us back. And so we do this through, we call it an illumination. And so we access the energetic field through the chakra system. And by finding where the imprints are most expressing themselves through the chakras, we open up those chakras and we just start clearing everything out. And we just clear it out, throw it into the fire. Things might come up for them, memories, flashes, but it's just kind of like a purging process. They're letting go, they're moving forward. And then they might have homework that comes up to help them work on that later. And so that's kind of step one with working with people with trauma and PTSD with this kind of work. The other step is helping them reset their fight or flight. So when we have these events, we have this trauma, we get revved up, and we here in the West do not know how to calm back down again. And this could be done through meditation, breath work, very simplistic ways. I teach people just simple box breathing method. But you can look at an example of this with like two dogs are fighting and they're just going at it. The owners separate them, and the dogs are just kind of watching each other, high alert, just amped up, ready to go. And then after a couple moments, they just kind of shake it off. They've let it go. We don't do that anymore. We live in a society now where social media is telling us everything's going to kill us. The news is telling us everyone's going to kill us. We're always ramped up. We're in survival mode already. We're watching all this stuff. We're trying to compete with all these people who we don't need to compete with. And then we have the trauma built on that. Then we have trying to survive paycheck to paycheck. We're in this constant state of just being ramped up. And so one thing I do with people is I teach them just simple box breathing technique, a 4-4-4-4. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. And I have them do it before they go to bed and when they wake up. Because people with severe trauma and PTSD, they'll have flashbacks, there'll be hypervigilance, they're constantly on guard. And if they're not relaxed when they go to sleep, that can cause more of those anxiety and nightmares to come up. And so calming them down before they sleep, having them go through their sleep cycle, if something comes up, by doing it again in the morning, they're now more relaxed for the day. And they'll get to that point in their life where all they need to do is just take a breath in and the body remembers now. The body knows, okay, it's time to relax. It's time to calm down, not let it get to us. Any questions on any of that? I got a couple other points, but
Well,
yeah.
I have a client
Mhm.
with PTSD, and it seems that she just wants to keep smoking pot instead of self soothing. It's like, let's find it. That's her way.
Mhm.
And I don't know how to get there just to breathe. But do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, and that's hard with the addiction piece, and that's kind of what I'm going to tie into next is, but with that, have them start doing that box breathing or some sort of breathing exercise to relax. I was self-medicating on weed for years trying to just make it through the day. But it's with any addiction, you also have to make that decision, oh, this is not good enough for me now. I need to move forward. And it's getting them out of that story of why they're doing it in the first place. So, what is it that they're getting from smoking weed every day? Are they hiding? Are they trying to protect themselves? Are they just trying to disassociate from the flashbacks, the dreams? What is it that they're getting from smoking every day? Okay. And so the next thing I see with people, I see the time, I don't want to go too quickly. I prepared this speech many times and tried to make sure my timing was perfect. So if I might go back and forth trying to make sure I hit everything. But the next thing I see a lot with people with trauma is actually entities. A lot of people don't want to admit that negative energies are out there and entities are there, but they do exist and they can cause a lot of harm on us. When we have these affinities that are created from the trauma, it's not quite a doorway, but it's like a meal for some of these entities to come in on. They feed off of these affinities that you have. They want you to be stuck in those modes of depression and anxiety because they're feeding off of that. And there's a lot of them out there, a lot of different kinds. There's some that are just simply fragments of an ancestor, and they're not conscious in the way of like a true spirit is. It's just a fragment. And this fragment might be filled with such emotion. Something happened in that life that they just couldn't fix, and they want to fix it with all their heart. And then when that person dies, that fragment broke off and gets attached to the family line, trying to fix what it couldn't fix. But when it does this, it has to bring in the issue that it couldn't fix. So maybe it was alcoholism. Suddenly, at a certain age, someone in the family has alcoholism or drug addiction or abuse, something that happens around the same age. Sometimes it's that ancestral part that comes in and it wants to get that fixed for themselves, but you don't understand what's going on. So now it looks like a generational curse. And there are curses out there, but this can come off like a generational curse. And so clearing out the ancestral piece and moving it on to the ancestral plane so it can get the healing it needs is one thing we look at too. But there's also things like elementals. When I came back from Afghanistan, I picked up a fire elemental and I didn't realize it. And that was part of my rage that I had. I was so angry all the time. I was literally punching holes in the wall. And I didn't understand why I was getting so mad at the simplest thing. Part of it was the trauma and the PTSD, but it was being enhanced by this elemental. Once that got cleared out of me, like everything shifted. And I was like, oh, why was I angry all the time? Like, didn't make any sense to me. It was unclear why it was happening.
So how can you detach? How can you clean? So how can you get those entities off you?
Yeah, and that's where it's a little bit challenging. Some things are easy enough to do with the journey work. Some things you might need someone like myself. It doesn't necessarily have to be me, but someone who's been trained with it. When I went through my own training with the Quiro shaman in Peru, they didn't even work with those types of entities. I actually found another shaman in South Africa who that's all he specializes in. And so I had him show me how to detect those things. And he has a different modality to get rid of some of the darker things. And journey work isn't alone. Like we're using extraction crystals and we're clearing out feeding tubes and cutting cords. And then we're doing a journey for the client and extracting things out of them. For some things like ancestors, elementals, you could do journey work on your own and have your guides help you. That is a possibility. I've seen it happen. But and sometimes for some of the darker stuff, it might be possible. It really depends on the person and what kind of guides they have. So I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's one of those like tricky things because if you're not careful and you don't know what you're doing, you can make things worse. So it's a fine line. If you're an experienced person doing journey work, and we'll get into how to do that, and you're actually connected with your guides, you're connected with your power animal, you have your spirit team with you, they can help you take care of that stuff, and you can do some of that on your own. But from my experience, a lot of the darker things, you really need someone to help you with it. Like even if something attaches to me, I have my teacher take it off of me and I take things off of him because sometimes it's just harder to do it on your own. And so these entities, like I said, they start feeding on people, they feed on their energy. And so you'll have people who they might seem more, they're always constantly getting sick. They're always constantly run down. Their immune systems are weak. Sometimes bigger diseases like cancer and things can show up. Now, there are genetic reasons for all these things too. And there's also, food and other issues that can bring on some of these things. So it's not all energetic, but it's one of the things we have to look at. And sometimes too, the entities will be so ingrained that they'll start hearing new voices in their head. They'll start hearing it tell them to do things that they wouldn't normally do, to hurt themselves, to even kill themselves. And this can come across in therapy as like paranoid schizophrenia, which can be a true thing too. So it's understanding that line and finding out which is which. Because we don't want to come into any modality we pick, we don't want to be that hammer always looking at things as a nail. And that's one thing I try to strive as most is if it's there, it's there, great, move it on. If it's not, recommend therapy or something else. Um, so yeah, with entities, they can just get in there and they wreak havoc. And so I got to the point now when I start working with a client, I check first for entities, clear it out of them first before we do anything else. Because I've had clients like the entity will start fighting back if I'm trying to work on the affinity of why they're there and why they're what they're feeding off of. I've had clients when I first started and didn't know any better, they were like dubbing over in pain and they could feel something moving away inside them. Like that's how bad some of these things can be. It's not common, so I don't want everyone to think it's, it's a widespread pandemic, but they are out there. And if you do any kind of energy work, does anyone here do that kind of work, energy work, working on others? Make sure you guys have protections in place, because I'd say half of my clients are veterans and first responder. The other half are practitioners who don't have the right protections in place. Because if you don't have those protections in place and you're working on someone and you're just trying to be that channel to bring energy to them, sometimes they'll just come on to you next because you might have that affinity that they're looking for that you haven't worked on yet, and you might not even realize it. So we always want to make sure we're adding protection when we're doing this kind of work. See, the other thing I see too a lot with this work is soul loss. So when we have trauma, and I kind of mentioned that with the ancestral part of our soul can break off and hide. And you see this actually in therapy. It's called internal family systems. And they talk about the internal family systems. And with them, it's more about your younger self breaking off and hiding and how you have to bring it back and reintegrate it. That's kind of like a soul retrieval to a point. The problem is here in the West, we have forgotten how to do that. And so we have many past lives with many missing soul parts. And so that opens up our energetic field with almost like holes, and they're not big giant holes, but, they can still be minute, small, tiny, microscopic holes. And then things can come in that's not yours, other energies that aren't yours. When you have soul loss, people might have that feeling of they're missing a part of themselves. They can't understand it. They're depressed all the time, but they have everything they've ever wanted, everything they've ever needed. They had the perfect childhood. They had this, they had that, but they're always depressed. Or they're always anxious about something and they don't understand where that anxiety is coming from. You might feel that you might be someone who's completely scared of fire. You've had no reason to be afraid of fire. You never got burned, never even had a camp out, but every time you see a flame, you freak out. Your anxiety levels kick up. You might have died in another lifetime by fire, and that part of your soul broke off. And this is your energetic body trying to remind you, trying to warn you that this is bad. I once had a client with, he was allergic to hay only in this specific place in Germany. And he couldn't understand it. It was just like debilitating for him. Every time he went back to see his family, he couldn't breathe. The medications weren't working. Nothing was working for him. And so we did, and we checked, we made sure there's no affinities, there was no entities, and we did a soul retrieval. And within that soul retrieval, I basically saw him in a barn trying to put the horses away. One of the horses freaked out, kicked a post, all the hay fell down over him. And then the barn caught on fire and he died. And so his energetic body was remembering that with the hay and causing his allergies. And so we did the soul retrieval, brought back the soul part, and now his symptoms they're never 100% with stuff like that because we only worked on it once, but they're so manageable now. He goes home with no problem. He has like a sneeze, stuffy nose, but it's not debilitating where he's laying in bed anymore. And so when we bring back our soul parts, we're also healing ourselves. When we have that trauma and we clear the affinities, we clear any entities if they're there, any other energy that's not yours, get rid of it, bring back your energy. Now the energetic field is ready for these soul parts to come back. If you bring back the soul parts before you've done the work, they won't always stay. And I see it all the time. I call them Etsy shamans because I see them on Etsy and they sell the soul retrievals for like 15 bucks and that's all they do. That soul part might stay, but if you haven't done the work to clear out the path, to clear out the space for it, it's not going to stay with you. It's going to leave. In fact, when I work with someone and we do the soul retrieval, they have homework they have to do for a month to have that integration, or else that soul part might not stay. And so we want to bring back those soul parts after we've done all that clearing and worked on all the affinities. And once that's done, I mean, this work alone shifts people's lives dramatically in ways that I never thought possible. If you'd have told me 15 years ago I'd be standing here, no, I would have thought you were nuts. I grew up very scientific, very logical, was not connected to spirit, did not deal with ancestors, didn't even have a religion. And now it's like, oh, no, 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 these ghosts are there. This is going on. That's here. Like, you journey and you find this. Like, all of this stuff is real. And it's incredible to even see. And we all access it. We can all do this stuff ourselves. Any questions on that? Cool. All right, so going back to your question, what can you do about it? So journey work is a key part that everybody here can do. It's very simple to do. It's not hard. When we journey, we go to, hey, when we journey, we go to like a different realm, a different place of existence. There's the lower world, the middle world, and the upper world. When you first start journeying, I say just stay strictly in the lower world. The lower world is like your hunter-gatherer area. That's where your power animals will be, where your human guides will be. And that's where you can get a lot of healing just right off the bat. When you meet your power animal and you meet your human guides, you can sit there and say, help me with a soul retrieval. Help me clear these stories. Show me different ways of healing. And they can do healing on you as well as just show you how to do it yourself. I've had many times I've gone down and said, I'm looking for something to help with X. And I'll get shown a stone or a flower, and I know nothing about these things. And I'll start Googling the image that I was shown. And I'll find the image, then I'll look up the spiritual meaning or the medicinal meanings of these things, and it's exactly what I'm looking for. So there's great power in journey work, and we all have access to tap into these realms. You don't need to pay anyone to journey for you. This is a gift that we all can do. You just need to learn the proper way to do it. And a lot of people, when they go down to the lower world, they still have the middle world mixed in there. And the middle world's our world. The middle world is all of this, everything you see, cars, technology, none of that exists in the lower world. If you're on the lower world and you're taking a rocket ship to the moon, you're not fully down yet. Like, you need to get deep into the lower world. And once you're in there, then you can get true healing. And I would not recommend anyone go to the middle world until you get experience. The middle world, again, it's like our world, but there's trickster spirits, there's entities, there's things that can attach to you, and you're not as protected when you go to the middle world. Like, usually if I want to look at something in the middle world, I'm in the lower world and I'm basically scrying at like a bull and I'm looking at what I need to know. I try not to touch the middle world. When you go to the upper world, this is more of your castles in the clouds, light beings. This is where your ascended masters are, your great teachers. And you can go up there and learn different modalities, like how do I work on X, Y, or Z? And they can teach you things. They can show you how to work on yourself as well. I would recommend when you first start journeying, only work on yourself. Never work on others until you get the experience and you build up that team. Because when you work on others, especially if they don't have your permission, we call that sorcery. Like, when I'm working with people and teaching them, if they ever work on somebody else without their permission, we're done. Because that's just not what we do. We don't work on others without their permission, regardless of how much they might want it. Because I'll get that all the time. Oh, my husband needs to see you. Oh, my wife. Like, okay, well, they have to come to me. I'm not going to call them. I'm not going to hunt them down because they're not ready yet. We all have our path that we need to take. And when we're ready for it, people will be there to help. So never work on others without their permission. That's just, yeah, it's a no-go. So any questions on that?
Is any preparation or steps we can take to start that journey?
So, and I was actually going to be teaching a class this afternoon on it, but then the tickets got messed up, so I got canceled. So I'm just going to kind of go into the class now. We'll make it easy. Um, and I do have, if anyone's interested, I got a free master class that will walk you through a lot of these steps too. It's completely free. You just sign up, and it's a bunch of different modules. I go into protection. I give you ways to protect yourself. I talk about entities. I show you how to clear your chakras easily. And then I also have a journey at the end that it's a guided meditation to take you into a journey to meet your power animal. It's all completely free at no cost whatsoever. Um, and that was, yeah, I did that because the class thing just doesn't seem to be working right for today. But when we want to do journey work, we first want to do protections on ourselves. Any kind of work, I don't care what it is. If we're doing ritual magic, activating sigils, planetary stuff, whatever you're working on, you want to make sure you have the right protections in and the right guides and helpers to help you. So, what I do before I do any kind of work, whether it's with a client or myself, I call into the four directions. And so, a simple way of doing it, because mine's kind of long, because I have different archetypes and different things that are with my lineage that I call to. But a simple thing you can do is face the direction and just start with the South and say, to the winds and spirits and guardians of the South, please watch over me today while I do X, or just even please just watch over me. Face to the West, to the winds, spirits, guardians of the West, please watch over me today. And then to the North, to the East. And then you go to the ground, Mother Earth, Pachamama, Mother Gaia, whichever name you want to use for her. Please protect me today and thank you for giving us a place to be. Father Sky, Grandmother Moon, please watch over us as we start what we're doing today. And what we're doing is we're building a sacred container and we're calling in all these things to help us. We're calling in our ancestors, we're calling in our guides, even if we don't know who they are. Doesn't matter. Like a lot of people get hung up on the word ancestors because maybe their dad was an abuser or their uncle was a drunk or whatever. None of that matters. You have at least 1 million people who lived and died for you to be here today, at a minimum. And so you can't tell me out of 1 million people, you have nobody that's got your back and that wants to help you. So that's why we call them in. And if you want to build an altar for them, you can. It's not a problem. You can choose who goes on there. You can say, Uncle Joe, you're not allowed. Sorry. Next time when we're ready, not a problem. Like my wife's dad's not allowed on our altar. Like that's just what it is. And when he changes, we'll bring him in. Every now and then we let him try out. Doesn't work, send him out. Like we have that ability. And so we opening that up before we do these things and then doing that box breathing, like I mentioned, the 4-4-4. So just really with intent, just breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe out 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4. And we just do that for 2 or 3 minutes. And you can expand on that. 4-4-4 is like the starting point. I do 7-7-7s. And the longer you go, the longer your heartbeat starts to slow down. It resets yourself and it puts you ready to be in that place. And so you really want to practice the breathing and getting centered into yourself. And you only need to do it for a minute or two. You don't need to clear your mind. You can count in your head while you're doing it. You're just focusing on your breath, focusing on your breathing, focusing on your being. And if you're a person that has anxiety, crippling anxiety where you can't do things half the time, you're hyperventilating, do that breath work. Just slow it down. The more you do it, the more the body remembers, like I mentioned earlier. And you'll get to the point where something happens and you literally just need to, and your body knows where it's supposed to be. And that's something with, especially with trauma and PTSD, a lot of these people just need to learn the breathe technique first. And sometimes we'll be working on decoupling their fight or flight for a couple sessions because they're ramped up to like 150. We bring them down to like 90. Then the next day they're at 110, then we bring them down to 60. And we're just constantly doing that back and forth till we find that nice medium where they then can focus on the healing they need to do. So then after that, so you've opened up your sacred space, you brought in your protection and your guides, and with that, I should say too, it's when we call in our guides, our protection, our ancestors, we don't want to be that neighbor or that friend or that relative who only asks for things. We want to make sure we're giving back. And it could be as simple as lighting a candle, burning some incense while you're calling them in. I use spirit water, which I did not bring with me, but if you, oh, she's got one. Thank you. And if anyone wants one, you can have it. I made a bunch for the class. But spirit water is like an offering, and it's also a protection. It's also called Florida water. But when you buy it from the store, it's just that heavy perfume, chemically smell, and I can't stand it. So this was made with the intent of protection and an offering. I made it myself from the flowers within my own garden, from the things within my own area. And so with this, it has roses, lilies, cedar, thyme. I threw some Palo Santo in there, some quartz crystal, I think some dahlias. My wife had a bunch of flowers this year, some dahlias too. And you just put it in a jar and you let it sit with some vodka for about a month. And then you just strain it out. And now all that essence from the plants and the things you put into it go into the spray. And you can use it as an offering. It smells good. You can also use it for protection. So if you're in a place where you're kind of feeling, I don't know, you just spray it over yourself. So it acts as protection and an offering. And so that's what I mean by giving back. So when you're calling in, usually when I call in my directions, I'll, to the winds and the spirits of the south, I spray a little. And then to the east, to the north. And you're just giving them an offering. We do that because we want to be reciprocal with that relationship. We want to be giving as well as receiving. If we're only receiving, they might stop answering the call. Just like you might stop talking to your neighbor who keeps borrowing your tools, or that uncle again who keeps taking money and never paying you back. Like, we want to make sure we have that relationship built in with them. That's what makes the journey work stronger. So when you do finally go down and journey, they're already there protecting you, guiding you, helping you. And so we've opened up sacred space. We've done the breath work. Now it's time to journey. It's very easy. It's you just get like a drumming track. And on that class, there's one in there for you too. But if you don't want to go through that class, you could go on YouTube. You can go on Spotify, Amazon Music. If you go on YouTube, make sure you have premium or that track doesn't have any commercials in the middle of it. You don't want to be journeying and then have a commercial for toilet paper or whatever pop off for you. It's not fun.
So when you have a candle and you want to do the offering, it has to be certain color white, or doesn't matter the color.
I find it doesn't matter. There's certain like ritual magic where color will matter, but with ancestors and stuff, I mean, I usually just use a white one just because that's the cheapest one out there. I'll buy a bunch of tea candles and I just use that. Um, but I've never found the color of a candle matters. They might tell you it matters. That's a possibility. Sometimes I'll be walking by the ancestral altar and I'll just be like, oh, I need to clean this up. They're a little mad right now. Oh, they want some incense. You'll start having that weird connection with them. Or my wife will be like, yeah, I just felt like I needed to put flowers on there today. So sometimes they'll give you those kind of messages. So they might say, we don't like black candles. That's bad. Take it away. They might say, give us pink. That's going to be between you and whoever you're working with. But I've never found color of candles to matter. So yeah, so you've done all that. Now you're doing the journey. You have your drumming track on. When it's your first time, I find it's best to use blindfolds. That way you block out everything. If you can't, just close your eyes. Make sure you're seated up in a comfortable position. If you lay down, you might fall asleep. You might fall asleep anyway if you're sitting up, but that's okay. You're going to listen to the drum track. And then the way I guide people is you'll start at a meadow, you'll head to the tree of life. It's going to be this big giant tree, branches going high into the heavens, roots going deep into the earth. You're going to go into the tree and follow one of the roots down into the ground, all the way deep into the earth until you come out to a cavern with a stream. Then you're going to lay down in the stream, let the waters wash over you, clear out any energies that you don't want to bring with you. Because what we're doing is we're going to your secret garden, your sacred place, your place of becoming. It's nobody else's but yours with this type of journey. And you'll wash out onto a beach, and then you'll see your garden, your meadow. There might be a mountain range, there might be a forest. And then you just do whatever it is you're there to do. You set the intention before you start. So your intention could be, I want to meet my power animal, see what animal shows up for you. Your intention could be, I want to see my human guide, see who shows up for you. Your intention, once you get a power animal and human guide, that's when you can truly start the healing process. And you can say, all right, I'm ready to heal this. I'm ready to do this. Show me what to do. And then they start showing you things. And now when you journey, it's going to be different for everybody because not everybody sees when they journey. Some guys I see, but I mostly know. Like I have this sense of knowing, like they're not talking to me directly. I just know what I'm supposed to do. And so you might see, it's the clear senses. You might see, you might only hear things. I met a guy once who all he could do was smell, and that tripped me out. But he could only smell, hear, all taste. Usually most people see or they know, but there is like a small percentage of people who don't see anything ever. I think it's like 10% of the population of the world just doesn't see anything. And so if you're one of those, just let it be. Just see if you have that knowing capability. And then just go down, do your thing, and then just come back. And then when you come back, you give thanks for them showing you what you needed to know. You might have to do some research, all that good stuff. That becomes the work part, actually having to look into it.
Thank you.
Mhm. See, we got about 10 minutes. Anything else? Any other questions? Yeah.
So I feel like it's inevitable for trauma to happen.
Mhm.
What are ways to prevent it from really leading its way inside of you? And then what are ways to maintain once you've done the work in the journey to kind of heal yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. And like for me, I'm clearing myself every day. I'm constantly checking in on myself because we have those affinities. You might be focused on that one trauma that's just a bigger part of that affinity. And so I'm constantly just working on myself every day. Part of that is shadow work, understanding why you got triggered in the first place, understanding that situation and what it made you feel like. So maybe that feeling of unworthiness stemmed from something else. What's that desire work? When I see that a lot with people making sigils and like, oh, I want the boat. Okay, well, why do you want the boat? Is the boat going to make you happy, make you look good? What is it about the boat that you truly want? And then look at it from that side. It's the same with trauma. Like, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling right now in this situation? What is it that's truly digging into me that's causing me to react this way? And so that comes from those trigger points. Oh, this situation, my boss wasn't happy with my work today. Okay. Can you look at that? Like, what can you agree even a little bit with him? Do you really think that you did the best thing ever and that he's wrong? And if so, then why would he think that? That's that shadow work and truly looking at yourself and why you're doing the thing, reacting the way you are. That's one thing we always want to do is blame somebody else, but we're responsible for our own reactions and how we interpret the situation. That's really that shadow work. And we can all do that. It's not easy. because some people don't, it's not fun to look at that at all. But doing that shadow work can truly help you dig into those scenarios a little bit better. It's the same when I have people who come to me and they're like, "Oh, I'm blocked in money. I want more abundance, more this, more that." It's like, okay, well, why? Again, what's that desire that you're truly looking for? What is it about money that'll make you complete? Is it because you grew up thinking you're worthless unless you had money because all your friends had money and you didn't as a child? That's a trauma in itself, that's part of that aspect. And so really digging down deep into why you want something or why something is you're reacting to that situation. And it's not easy. I mean, I've worked on my PTSD for 9 years now, and I still have moments where something triggers it. And I'm like, "Ah." But I've learned now to, okay, that's right. That's not who I am. Let me recalibrate for a second, take in that breath. My biggest trigger is still loud noises, things going off. And so it's like, I went to the Puyallup Fair. Kids really wanted to go, and we have yet to ever take them. And it's like, all right, fine. And there was moments where things were popping behind me, and it was like, I had to breathe, relax, move on, get through it. So trauma's never, again, what happened happened. We're shifting on how we react to the new way. And we can let that come back up and take over our life again. And my teacher says this all the time. He's like, have the feelings when they come up. If you're scared, you're sad, you're angry, you're happy, have the feelings, but don't get stuck in the emotion. That's what happens when we're in that story. We're in that trauma-based fear. We're stuck in that emotion. And so, like what I was mentioning, I had the feeling. I was like, oh, but I didn't get stuck in it. I moved on and continued having fun with my kids, paying for a crap ton of rides. But yeah, that's the only true way is to really do that shadow work. I know it's kind of cliche, but it is important to sit there with yourself and truly think about the situations that trigger you the most and find out why. And sometimes you might not have a full reason because it might be something that happened in a past life, but there will be enough smaller situations that tie in with it where you can somewhat see a pattern and figure it out.
And you mentioned you kind of do your daily cleansing.
Mhm.
What does that look like? Is this you journeying every day? What is that?
I do illuminations on myself. So I start my day, and I mean, I call in the four directions. I sit down on my altar and I give thanks to my guides and the archetypes that I work with. Because in my lineage, I have different archetypes within my chakras and all these things. And so I give thanks to them, give them an offering. I'll then go and do what's called the breath of fire, where I'm basically running energy through my body and I'm bringing energy from the heavens and from the earth, and it's just cleansing me. A simple chakra technique you can do is you could be in the shower or you can have like a fire next to you, but just put your left hand on your back, start at your first chakra, go counterclockwise, and just pull anything out that might be there, throw it into the fire, throw it into the water, work your way up. And sometimes you might start having a physical reaction. I did my throat chakra once and it was like I needed to cough. I was like choking. You just keep going, keep going, keep going, clear it out, throw it in the fire, throw it in the water. And then when you're done, all of them, spin them all clockwise because our chakras are supposed to go clockwise. It's like a vortex. They all go clockwise when they're healthy. When they're slowed down or unhealthy, they go counterclockwise. And that's how we open them. We go counterclockwise, we open them up. Clockwise, we close them back up and we make them healthy. But you do that for all seven, and you can do just a generic cleansing on your chakras every day. The more you do it, the better it is. And that can help clear some of that stories and affinities as well. It's not going to get super deep, but it'll help knock off a little bit. So yeah, I do, like I said, sacred space, give offering, do the breath of fire. Depending on my time, I'll do an illumination on myself where I'm working on something specific and I'm just clearing it out of my chakra system. And then I usually just close up for the day, and then I might start work. But I usually at least do those every day. No problem. Yes, sorry.
Okay. You said that you meet a power animal and then your guides follow the lore.
Mhm.
Do those ever change, or do they stay the same the entire time, or do they change with you as you journey more?
Yes. You should always, we usually always have one primary power animal. So mine's like a little small kabucha monkey. And monkey's always with me when I'm doing my normal journey work. Sometimes other animals might show up because they need to show you something different. When you're doing these journeys, you can turn into animals and experience what it's like to be them. You can become a tree. I've been a stone. You can learn from the plant kingdom and the stone kingdom. They're great teachers. But usually you always have one. Sometimes it might change. Some people have two at a constant basis. When I'm doing my extraction work and I'm in someone's low world and I'm clearing them out, wolf shows up for me. Wolf is my protector when I'm doing extraction work. Monkey never shows up for that. So, but we want to have a power animal because they're our guardians. They're like our protectors. And if you're ever trying to do something and your power animal just kind of doesn't want to follow you or doesn't want to do it with you, don't do it. Like you have free will, but they're kind of like your guide and they're there to just watch over you. And I always start people first with their power animal. Then we find their human guide. Then we find their like soul tribe. And that's where even more healing comes in. When you find the soul tribe, you go in the middle, you can do some great soul retrievals with the soul tribe. But I always start with the power animal that's like fundamental. Was there another part to that? I think that was it. Okay, make sure.
Oh, I was gonna say, how do you find your power
The same thing when you do the journey down to low world. And again, on that free class, the journey is to find your power animal. But you go down to your garden, your lower world, and you go with the intent to meet your power animal. And you basically call it forth. And you say, now please come forth, whatever animal is out there for me. And then something will show up for you. You close your eyes, you turn around, you call again, see if it's the same animal. Close your eyes, turn around, call it again. If you get the same animal 3 times, then you ask, are you my power animal? What teachings do you have for me? What are you here to show me? And then just spend time with it. And then you'll do the same thing later with, I would like to meet my human guide. I would like to find my soul tribe. But we want to build the relationships first. Yep, no problem. This is what we're here for.
Whenever it comes to children that have experienced trauma and don't necessarily know how to identify it
Mhm.
or know that they need any help, are there any steps that parents can take to protect them or kind of guide?
Yep. Yeah, kids are always tricky. I always have a weird moral dilemma because it's like we as parents, we can choose to have our children worked on with or without their permission, technically. But I kind of cut it off at like the age of 16 because at 16, you kind of know where your direction in life is kind of going. You know, you're not perfect, but definitely by the time you're 18, you're an adult. But 16, I give the child more free will. Um, And that's the dilemma I always run into because it's maybe this child needs to spend these years with crippling anxiety to overcome it, to be that person that teaches others. You know, maybe this is why they're here. This is why their lesson in life was to be. But then you got the flip side of it's not really serving them and they don't like it and they do have free will. So why not help? You know, that kind of thing. If you want to work on kids and they're your own kids, I personally say go for it, especially if they're under 16. You as the parent know best, and you should know that this is just not helping your child in any way. I find the younger the child is, the more interested they are in this work because they're still kind of connected to what's going on out there. The older they get, the more they get into video games and electronics and get disassociated from nature. They don't care. I mean, that's just what it is. But you could do journeys for them Like you could go down and do a journey with the intent of helping them and have your power animal or human guide show you things that could help them. I've done work on my wife where it's like an energetic version of hers laying on a table and we were like removing stuff and healing her shoulder. It was really trippy when we're doing it. But then I came in the house and asked how she's feeling. She's like, my shoulder's really sore. And I'm like, sweet, it worked. You'll get those moments of, oh, this is real. This is happening. So yeah, it's for protection. I mean, when you open up sacred space, you can open it up for the entire house. It doesn't have to be where you're at in this moment. When I open it up, I cover my whole property and it protects everything within because I don't want anything coming in. And so you can do that as well. You can find like what's their issue, or do you want to talk about that? Or
He's just had been exposed to some I would identify it as PTSD, but kind of trauma. He kind of grew up in an abusive situation. It's my sister's son. My sister passed away a couple of years ago, and so I've taken him into our home. And
Okay.
he's my son now, but he has a lot of anger and a lot of feelings that he doesn't know how to identify. His go-to is always just anger,
Yeah.
being physical, things like that. So I'm just obviously I want the best for him. So I just don't know how to navigate getting him to a place where he feels safe here.
How old is he?
He's
10. Okay, that's still a good age. One thing you could do is maybe create like an ancestral altar because he could be angry. Part of that anger could be from the death of his mother and not being able to get the closure that he wanted. But you could create an ancestral altar in your house and you can keep it real simple. Just maybe a candle, a picture of her, maybe a picture of somebody else in your family that's passed on that you want to remember, and just have him help you with it. Have him help you create it and just say, hey, every time we light the candle, we give incense, we give thanks to your mom. She's here with us. It's not going to change it 100% right away, but doing stuff like that will make him more open to wanting to think of the other things. I personally will work on any child for free. So if you want to reach out to me, we can work on them together if he's willing. I don't do costs for kids because I know what it's like to have kids and you can't afford to take care of them, versus an adult. So if you want after this, just I'll give you my card and you can reach out to me too. But yeah, we can work together on that one. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What does working with you or someone like you one-on-one kind of entail? Like a timeline, a process? Is it totally unique because everybody's unique?
It depends on what you're working through in the situation. So I have a PTSD program, for example, that's 3 months long. And these are usually for vets and first responders because they have it really severe and it's ingrained. And we meet weekly and we do a session every week. And each session's an hour. Entity work, for example, it might only be 4 sessions. The first session is clearing out the entities. The next 2 sessions is clearing out that affinity, why they got attached to you. The fourth session's doing a soul retrieval and bringing back the soul parts you lost. It really depends on the person and what they're going through. On average, I would say most things I work on is about a 4 session deal. That's average. But yeah, it's for the truly severe ones. Like I said, I got the 3 month program, but we're weekly, just clearing, 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 clearing. And you can do that for anything. I mean, wealth and abundance blocks, you could be clearing that weekly too. Like all sorts of things can get cleared. But I always warn clients to things will shift. Like I just had a client that we finished up. She had some entities, cleared her. And then later that day, her boyfriend broke up with her. And so she's crying. She's calling me the next day, like, I don't know what's going on. What did you do to me? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, well, what was the relationship like? And she had to really sit with that. And she was like, it was very toxic. I'd been wanting to break up with him forever, but I was afraid to do it. He even told me he was just there for my energy. I was like, well, we just cleared a bunch of feeding tubes and stuff as part of this entity work. Like he knows subconsciously you're not available anymore. And then we did another session a week later. And then suddenly out of the blue, some man that she used to know, but went away because she kind of ignored him, but he was always there for her, always nice, suddenly shows up and wants to reconnect. And then she got sick and he literally had her at his house, making soup for her, not even trying to put the moves on her, just taking care of her. It's a relationship she's never had before, with someone taking care of her, not using her. So this work will shift things in crazy ways. Sometimes it feels for the worst at the moment. I had one client who she got fired from her job a week later after a session, but she had been wanting to quit for so long to start her own business. And now she's successful with her own business. But she had to cut that tie. She had to let it go. And all right, we're out of time. So yeah,
When is the master class?
it's free. So you can start it at any time. It's open. You can scan the QR code or just
Thank you.
go on the website. Yeah. It's completely free, no cost. Yeah. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Shaman Stories podcast. If you have any interest in the services that I provide or the services of my guest, please click the link in the show notes below. Thank you. And until next time, have a good journey.